I'm Lana, 36, and life hasn't exactly been kind lately. As a single mom to my 7-year-old son, Tyler, I've always tried to shield him from the painful family dynamics I grew up with. My parents have always favored my younger brother, Kyle, but I never thought they'd take it so far. When they completely ignored Tyler's birthday party that he'd been counting down to for months, I was heartbroken for him. But what came next shocked even me. If you're curious about how I finally stood up to my family when they demanded $2,200 for Kyle's graduation after snubbing my son's stick around, let me know where you're watching from, hit that like button, and subscribe to hear how sending just $1 helped me find my voice and change our lives forever. Growing up in a middle-class suburban neighborhood in Minnesota, I always knew something wasn't quite right with my family dynamics. My parents, Richard and Margaret, made it painfully obvious that my younger brother Kyle was the golden child. He was their pride and joy, while I often felt like an afterthought in their lives. Christmas mornings told the whole story. Kyle would unwrap the latest gaming console, expensive sports equipment, or whatever was on his wish list that year. I'd get practical gifts like socks, school supplies, or occasionally a book. When I was 12, I remember Kyle, who was only 6 at the time, receiving a brand new bicycle with all the accessories. My gift that year was a set of pencils and a journal. My mother said, "You're always writing anyway, so we thought you'd like this." The disappointment stung, but I'd learned to hide it well by then. School events were another battlefield. My parents never missed Kyle's soccer games or school performances, rearranging their work schedules, and even canceling important appointments to be there. Meanwhile, when I had a piano recital after practicing for months, my mother showed up late and my father didn't come at all. "One had to stay with Kyle," was the explanation I received. It didn't matter that Kyle was 11 and perfectly capable of sitting through a 1-hour recital. Despite this upbringing, I managed to make it to college, where I met Jackson during my sophomore year. He was charismatic, ambitious, and seemed to adore me. We married right after graduation in a small ceremony that my parents almost missed because Kyle had a minor cold that day. They arrived just as we were saying our vows, making a commotion as they entered the venue. Jackson and I welcomed Tyler 2 years into our marriage. I thought having a child might finally bring my parents around, give us a fresh start. For a while, it seemed to work. They visited after Tyler was born and even babysit occasionally when I returned to work. But when Kyle started having trouble in school, their attention quickly diverted back to him. My marriage to Jackson began to crumble shortly after. The pressures of new parenthood, his demanding job, and my growing resentment toward my family created cracks that eventually became irreparable. When Tyler was 2, Jackson announced he'd accepted a job across the country and didn't see us fitting into his new life. The divorce was quick but painful. Since then, Jackson's involvement in Tyler's life has been minimal at best. He visits maybe twice a year, usually around Christmas and sometimes during summer. Child support comes sporadically despite the court order. He always has an excuse about business being slow or unexpected expenses. Meanwhile, his social media shows vacations in Europe and a new car every couple of years. After the divorce, I focused on building a stable life for Tyler and myself. I worked hard to become a dental hygienist, a job that paid well enough and offered the flexibility I needed as a single mom. Every decision I made centered around what was best for Tyler. We found a cozy 2-bedroom apartment in a good school district, and I stretched my budget to give him as many opportunities as I could afford. Throughout this time, my relationship with my parents remained strained but intact. I kept trying for Tyler's sake, hoping they would be the loving grandparents he deserved. They were his only close family on my side after all. But their pattern of behavior continued. While they were pouring resources into Kyle's life, paying his full college tuition at an expensive private university, buying him a brand new sedan for his 18th birthday, and funding his spring break trips to Cancun, they rarely contributed to Tyler's well-being. When I once asked for help with Tyler's preschool tuition during a particularly tight month, my father lectured me about financial responsibility before reluctantly writing a check that he made sure to mention in every conversation for the next year. The contrast between how they treated Kyle and Tyler was painful to watch. They'd send Kyle lavish birthday gifts, but forget Tyler's birthday entirely one year. When I called to remind them, my mother gasped and said, "Oh, I've been so busy helping Kyle prepare for his finals. Can we just take him out next weekend instead?" Tyler was 4 and had been talking about his birthday for weeks. The disappointment on his little face when I told him we'd celebrate with Grandma and Grandpa later was heartbreaking. Still, I persisted in my attempts to involve my parents in Tyler's life. I'd send them pictures of his art projects, videos of his t-ball games, and updates about his achievements in school. The responses were typically brief and redirected the conversation back to Kyle. "That's nice. Did I tell you Kyle made the dean's list again?" They developed a pattern of canceling plans with Tyler for trivial reasons related to Kyle. A lunch date would be canceled because Kyle needed help moving furniture in his dorm room. A promised trip to the zoo would be forgotten because Kyle had a slight cold and needed soup delivered to his apartment. Each time I'd have to explain to Tyler why his grandparents weren't coming, watching his little shoulders slump with disappointment. By the time Tyler was approaching his 7th birthday, I had lowered my expectations considerably, but still held on to a sliver of hope that my parents could change. That maybe they would show up for their grandson in a meaningful way when it truly mattered to him. Tyler had been talking about his 7th birthday for months. Unlike previous years where he was content with a small celebration at our apartment with a few friends this year, he had big dreams. He had recently become obsessed with dinosaurs after a school field trip to the Natural History Museum, and he wanted a dinosaur-themed party more than anything in the world. "Mom, can I have a T-Rex cake and decorations with all the dinosaurs? And can we play fossil hunting games?" His eyes would light up every time he talked about it. He started making drawings of what he wanted his party to look like, complete with crayon illustrations of dinosaur banners and a table full of prehistoric treats. He even created a countdown calendar marking off each day with increasing excitement as the big day approached. Despite my tight budget, I was determined to make Tyler's dream party a reality. I picked up extra shifts at the dental office, cutting back on my own expenses, so I could afford to give him the celebration he deserved. I spent weeks planning every detail, researching budget-friendly ways to create an impressive dinosaur experience. Tyler and I worked together on the invitations. We spent an entire Saturday afternoon cutting out dinosaur shapes from colored paper and gluing them onto cards. I helped him write all the details, and he proudly signed his name on each one. His handwriting was still developing with some letters backward and others squished together, but he insisted on doing it himself. "So everyone knows it's really from me," he explained seriously. I managed to book the small community center near our apartment for a reasonable fee. It wasn't fancy, but it had enough space for the kids to run around and play the games I had planned. I ordered a custom dinosaur cake from a local bakery, wincing at the price, but knowing how much it would mean to Tyler to see his dinosaur dreams come to life in frosting and fondant. As we worked on the party preparations, Tyler would occasionally ask, "Will Grandma and Grandpa come to my party? And Uncle Kyle?" Despite their history of disappointments, he still yearned for their approval and attention. Kids are resilient that way, always hoping, always believing in the people who should love them. "I'll invite them, sweetheart," I promised, trying to keep my tone neutral despite the knot forming in my stomach. I didn't want to get his hopes up, but I also didn't want to project my own doubts onto him. 3 weeks before the party, I called my parents to personally invite them. I could have sent a text, but I wanted them to hear the importance in my voice, to understand what this meant to Tyler. "Hi, Mom. I'm calling about Tyler's birthday party. It's on the 15th at 2 o'clock at the community center on Maple Street. He's really hoping you, Dad, and Kyle can make it." "Oh, the 15th. She hesitated. "I'm not sure what we have going on then. Kyle might be coming home that weekend." "That's perfect then," I said, trying to sound upbeat. "Kyle can come to the party too. Tyler would love to see his uncle." "Well, I don't know what plans Kyle might have with his friends. You know how busy he is, so popular with everyone." The pride in her voice was unmistakable. "But we'll try to make it. I'll have to check with your father and Kyle." "Mom, this is really important to Tyler. He's been planning this for months." "We'll try, Lana. That's all I can promise. You know we love Tyler." It wasn't the enthusiastic response I'd hoped for, but it was better than an outright no. Over the next few weeks, I continued preparing for the party, going all out with the dinosaur theme. I found affordable decorations online, ordered party favors shaped like dinosaur eggs with small toys inside, and planned games like Pin the Horn on the Triceratops, and a dinosaur egg hunt with plastic eggs I'd fill with candy and small prizes. Tyler's excitement grew with each passing day. He practiced a little thank you speech he wanted to give at the party. "Thank you everyone for coming to my dinosaur party," he would recite to me while standing on a stool in our kitchen. "You are all the best friends and family a boy could have." My heart swelled with love for him, even as I worried about the potential for disappointment. The week of the party, I sent reminder texts to everyone, including my parents and Kyle. Most of Tyler's friends' parents responded promptly, confirming their attendance. My parents' response came later, a vague, "We'll try to make it," that set off warning bells in my mind. I called them again, trying one more time to emphasize the importance of the day. "Dad, I just want to confirm you're coming to Tyler's party on Saturday. He's really excited to see you all." "Yes, yes, we know about the party," he said, sounding distracted. "If nothing comes up with Kyle, we should be there." "Dad, please. This is important to Tyler. He specifically asked if his grandparents and uncle would be there." "We said we'll try Lana. What more do you want from us?" "We have lives too, you know." I bit back the angry retort that threatened to escape. Getting into an argument wouldn't help. Instead, I took a deep breath and said, "I understand. I just wanted to let you know how much it would mean to him. The party starts at 2. I hope to see you there." I hung up feeling uneasy, but trying to stay positive for Tyler's sake. As the big day approached, I focused on making everything perfect, pushing aside my concerns about my family's attendance. After all, Tyler would have his friends there. We would celebrate and have fun, no matter what. The night before the party, Tyler was too excited to sleep. He kept getting out of bed to check that his special dinosaur shirt was still laid out for the morning. "Tomorrow's gonna be the best day ever, right, Mom?" he asked, his eyes shining with anticipation. "The absolute best." I promised, tucking him in for the third time. "Now get some sleep, birthday boy. Dinosaurs need their rest too." Little did I know how that promise would be tested the very next day. The morning of Tyler's party dawned bright and clear, a perfect early autumn day. Tyler woke up at 6:30, bursting with energy and excitement. He bounced into my room already wearing the dinosaur costume I'd laid out for him the night before. "Mom! Mom, it's my birthday party day!" he exclaimed, jumping onto my bed with all the enthusiasm only a 7-year-old could muster at that hour on a Saturday. I rubbed sleep from my eyes and smiled at his joy. "Happy birthday party day, sweetheart. You're up early." I couldn't sleep anymore. I'm too excited. "When can we go set up the party?" We had a quick breakfast, though. Tyler was too keyed up to eat much of his dinosaur-shaped pancakes. I packed the car with all the decorations and supplies I'd prepared over the past weeks, and we headed to the community center an hour early to set everything up. Tyler was a bundle of energy as we transformed the playroom into a prehistoric paradise. He helped hang the dinosaur banners, set out the plates and cups with dinosaur prints, and arrange the party favors on the table. His face lit up when I unveiled the centerpiece, a 3-tier cake with a T-Rex topper that had cost me nearly a week's grocery budget. "This is the coolest cake ever," he gasped, clapping his hands. "Grandma and Grandpa are gonna love it." I smiled, though anxiety gnawed at my stomach. I hadn't heard from my parents since that last non-committal conversation. I checked my phone again, no new messages, but it was still early. The party wasn't set to start for another 30 minutes. As 2 o'clock approached, Tyler stood by the door in his dinosaur costume, ready to greet his guests. The first to arrive were the Johnsons, with their twins from Tyler's class. Tyler welcomed them with practiced politeness, showing them where to put their gifts and explaining the dinosaur-themed activities with pride. Over the next half hour, more classmates arrived with their parents. I kept one eye on the door and the other on my phone, waiting for any sign of my parents and Kyle. Tyler would glance at me periodically, the unasked question in his eyes, each time someone new arrived who wasn't his grandparents. By 2:30, most of the invited children had arrived, about 8 kids in total. Not a huge party, but enough to make the room feel festive and full of energy. I'd planned the games to start at 2:15, but had delayed hoping my parents would show up. Now I couldn't stall any longer without the kids getting restless. "Let's start with the dinosaur egg hunt," I announced, trying to sound cheerful. The children cheered and gathered around as I explained the rules. As the kids scattered around the room, hunting for the colorful eggs I'd hidden, Tyler approached me again, his dinosaur mask pushed up on his head. "Mom, when are Grandma and Grandpa coming? And Uncle Kyle?" I checked my phone one more time. Nothing. "I'm sure they're on their way, sweetie. They might be running late." Tyler nodded, trying to look brave, but I could see the disappointment already setting in. Okay, I saved them the special dinosaur eggs with the best prizes. My heart ached as he rejoined his friends, his movements less enthusiastic than before. I discreetly stepped away to call my parents, but the call went straight to voicemail. I sent a quick text. Party started half-hour ago. Kids are having fun. Tyler's asking for you. And 10 minutes later, as the kids were playing Pin the Horn on the Triceratops, my phone vibrated with a message. My hopes lifted momentarily, then crashed as I read the text from my father. Something came up with Kyle. Can't make it. Sorry. That was it. No explanation, no suggestion to celebrate another time, just a brief dismissal of my son's special day. I felt a hot rush of anger, followed by a wave of sadness for Tyler. I looked over at him blindfolded for his turn at the game, spinning and giggling with his friends. How was I going to tell him? Should I tell him now and risk ruining the rest of the party, or try to distract him until later? Before I could decide, Tyler removed his blindfold after placing the horn wildly off target to the delight of his friends. He immediately looked around the room, then came straight to me. Did Grandma and Grandpa text you? Are they almost here? I couldn't lie to him. Kneeling down to his level, I said gently, Sweetheart, I just got a message from Grandpa. Something came up and they won't be able to make it today. Tyler's face fell, his bright eyes dimming with disappointment. But they promised they'd try. Did they say when they're coming instead? No, honey, they didn't. I'm so sorry. He bit his lip, clearly fighting back tears. Then, with a resilience that broke my heart, he nodded and said, That's okay. We're still having a dinosaur party, right? The best dinosaur party ever, I assured him, giving him a quick hug. I better go play with my friends then, he said with forced brightness, rejoining the group. For the rest of the party, Tyler put on a brave face, but I could tell the joy had gone out of the day for him. The other parents noticed too. Lisa, mother of one of Tyler's classmates, approached me as I was cutting the cake. Everything okay? She asked quietly. Tyler seems a little down. His grandparents were supposed to come but canceled last minute, I explained, trying to keep the bitterness from my voice. He was really looking forward to seeing them. Lisa squeezed my arm sympathetically. That's tough. My parents live across the country, so they miss most of Emma's events. It's always hard on her. At least your parents have distance as an excuse, I said, unable to hide my frustration. Mine lived 20 minutes away. The party continued with cake and presents. Tyler thanked everyone for coming and for his gifts, his rehearsed speech delivered with less enthusiasm than he'd practiced. When it was time to go home, he helped me pack up the leftover cake and unused party favors, including the special ones he'd set aside for his grandparents and uncle. The drive home was quiet, Tyler staring out the window lost in thought. Finally, in a small voice, he asked, Mom, did I do something wrong? Is that why Grandma and Grandpa didn't come? The question hit me like a physical blow. No, Tyler, absolutely not, I said firmly, glancing at him in the rearview mirror. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes adults just make bad choices and disappoint the people they should care about most. Oh, he said, processing this. Do they not like me as much as Uncle Kyle? That question was even worse, cutting straight to the heart of the issue I'd been trying to shield him from. Your grandparents love you, Tyler. They just don't always show it the right way. This isn't about you, I promise. That night after Tyler was in bed, I scrolled through my social media feeds trying to distract myself from the lingering sadness of the day. That's when I saw a post from my brother Kyle, time-stamped during Tyler's party. It showed him with our parents at a beach, all three grinning widely at the camera. The caption read, Surprise beach day with the parents. Thanks for the spontaneous road trip. So there had been no emergency. They had simply chosen a beach trip with Kyle over their grandson's birthday party. The betrayal stung fresh and deep. I closed the app, tears of anger and hurt blurring my vision. In that moment, I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep exposing Tyler to this pattern of disappointment and rejection. The week following Tyler's birthday party was difficult for both of us. Tyler tried to act normal, but I noticed his normally bubbly personality seemed subdued. He didn't mention the party or his grandparents' absence, but I caught him looking sadly at the photos I'd taken, studying the images, as if searching for something missing. I was struggling with my own emotions, a mixture of deep hurt for my son and simmering anger at my family. What made it worse was the complete lack of acknowledgement from my parents. No apology text, no belated birthday card for Tyler, not even a casual "how did the party go" message. It was as if the entire event so important to Tyler hadn't even registered on their radar. My phone did buzz with texts from them, but they were the usual casual check-ins or updates about Kyle, never mentioning the missed party. "Kyle got an internship interview," my mother texted 3 days after. "So proud of him. Can you believe he's graduating soon?" I didn't respond. For the first time in my life, I decided I needed some space from my parents. I wasn't going to cut them off completely, that felt too extreme. But I needed time to process my feelings and decide how to protect Tyler moving forward. When the invitation came for Sunday dinner the following weekend, a standing tradition in our family, when Kyle was home, I politely declined. "Tyler and I have other plans, but thanks for the invite," I texted back. "What plans?" my mother immediately responded. "We never see Tyler anymore." The irony of that statement after they'd just skipped his birthday party was almost too much to bear. I didn't take the bait and simply didn't respond. My phone rang a few minutes later, my mother calling, but I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to have that conversation yet without saying something I might regret. 2 weeks after the party fiasco, I was starting to feel more centered. Tyler seemed to be bouncing back his natural resilience, helping him move past the disappointment. We'd had some good talks about how it's okay to feel sad when people let you down, and that it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. I was just considering reaching out to my parents again, thinking perhaps enough time had passed for me to address the birthday situation calmly, when my phone buzzed with a group text from my father. It was sent to me, my mother, and Kyle. "Big news, everyone! Kyle's graduation ceremony is set for May 15th. We're planning a celebration fitting for our family's first college graduate graduation brunch at the Lakeside Restaurant, Kyle's favorite, followed by a reception at our house for extended family and Kyle's friends. We've calculated costs, and it comes to $2,200 per family member to cover everything. Please confirm you can contribute your share by the end of the week, so we can secure the reservations." I stared at the message in disbelief. $2,200. That was more than my monthly rent. And the casual assumption that I would contribute equally despite my single-parent financial situation left me speechless. My father hadn't even bothered to ask if this was feasible for me, or offered any flexibility given my circumstances. Just a flat expectation that I would pay up for Kyle's celebration, after they couldn't even show up for Tyler's modest birthday party. Before I could formulate a response, more texts followed in quick succession. "Dad. Lana, we need your confirmation ASAP. The restaurant requires a deposit. Mom. It's going to be such a special day. We're ordering custom graduation announcements too. Kyle. Can't wait to see everyone there. Bringing my girlfriend Megan. Dad already counted her in the numbers." I set my phone down, feeling a familiar knot forming in my stomach. The absolute audacity was stunning. Not a word about missing Tyler's birthday, but an immediate demand for a substantial financial contribution to celebrate Kyle. It perfectly encapsulated the family dynamic I'd grown up with. I called my best friend Jessica that evening after Tyler was in bed. "They want how much?" she exclaimed when I told her about the texts. "After skipping Tyler's birthday without even a proper apology. That's insane, Lana." "I know, but it's always been like this," I sighed. "Kyle is the priority. Always has been." "So what are you going to do? Can you even afford that kind of money right now?" "Not without dipping into Tyler's education fund," I admitted, which I'm absolutely not doing, but I don't know how to respond without causing a huge family drama. "Lana," Jessica's voice turned serious, "maybe some family drama is exactly what's needed here. You've been accommodating their behavior for years, and now it's affecting Tyler too. Sometimes you have to rock the boat to make people realize they can't keep treating you this way." "I know you're right," I said, "but the thought of confrontation with them makes me feel physically ill. I've spent my whole life trying to keep the peace. And where has that gotten you? They still treat you and Tyler like afterthoughts. At some point, you have to ask yourself what example you're setting for your son about how people should treat him." That question hit home. What was I teaching Tyler by continuing to accept this treatment? that it was okay for people to consistently disappoint him to prioritize others over him, as long as they were family. "You're right," I said finally. "I need to stand up for us this time." The next day, the texts from my father continued, growing increasingly insistent. "Lana, we haven't heard from you about Kyle's graduation costs. We need to finalize everything this week." That evening, he called. I almost let it go to voicemail again, but decided it was time to address the situation directly. I answered, my heart pounding. "Hi, Dad." "Lana, finally. Did you get my text about the graduation celebration?" "Yes, I did." "Great, so can you confirm you'll contribute your share? Your mother's already ordered the invitations." "Dad, I need to talk to you about that. $2,200 is a lot of money for me right now." He sighed, the sound full of familiar disappointment. "Lana, this is your brother's college graduation. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. Surely you can manage to support him on his big day. Like you supported Tyler on his birthday." The words slipped out before I could stop them. There was a pause. "What are you talking about?" "Tyler's birthday party. 2 weeks ago. The one you and Mom and Kyle skipped to go to the beach." "Oh, that." He sounded dismissive. Kyle had been studying so hard he needed a break before finals. "It was just a child's birthday party. There will be plenty more. A college graduation is different." His casual dismissal of something so important to Tyler stoked my anger. It was important to Tyler, Dad. He was heartbroken that none of you showed up. "We'll make it up to him sometime. Now about the graduation contribution." And just like that, he was back to Kyle, brushing aside Tyler's feelings as if they were inconsequential. In that moment, something crystallized within me. This pattern wouldn't change unless I changed my response to it. "I'll think about it, Dad," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I need to check my finances." "Well, don't take too long. We need to know by Friday." After hanging up, I sat in silence, processing the conversation. My father hadn't shown a shred of remorse or understanding. In his mind, Kyle's needs and celebrations would always take precedence, and I was being difficult by even bringing up Tyler's birthday. It was time to make a decision about how to respond to their graduation demands, one that would send a clear message about how I expected my son and myself to be treated, even by family. That night, after my conversation with my father, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying years of similar interactions in my mind. Always the same pattern, always being made to feel like Tyler and I were somehow less important, less deserving of consideration and love than Kyle was. Around 2 in the morning, I gave up on sleep and quietly got out of bed, careful not to wake Tyler. I went to the kitchen table with a cup of tea and my laptop, thinking I would distract myself with some mindless internet browsing. Instead, I found myself looking at our family photos, digital albums spanning from my childhood to recent pictures of Tyler. I could see the pattern even in the photographs. In group pictures, Kyle was always front and center, my parents beaming proudly beside him while I was often on the edge of the frame. There were dozens of photos of Kyle's achievements, sports games, and school events with my parents present, but far fewer of mine. The same pattern continued with Tyler, sparse images of my parents, with him compared to the countless photos with Kyle. While looking through Tyler's room for his tablet charger the day before, I had found his journal, a school project where his teacher had encouraged the children to write about their feelings. I hadn't intended to read it, respecting his privacy, but a page had fallen open, and my eyes caught an entry dated the day after his birthday party. "I don't think Grandma and Grandpa love me as much as Uncle Kyle," he had written in his childish scrawl. "They didn't come to my dinosaur party even though I made special invitations. Mom says they do love me, but they're just busy. I think maybe I did something bad and they're mad at me. I will try to be better so they will come next time." Finding that entry had broken something inside me. Now, in the quiet darkness of my kitchen, I reread those words in my mind and felt a clarity I hadn't before. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about protecting Tyler from the same feelings of inadequacy and rejection that had shaped my own childhood. I spent the early morning hours researching family therapy options, reading articles about toxic family dynamics and setting boundaries. Everything I read confirmed what I was feeling. that sometimes the healthiest response to harmful patterns is to step back and create firm boundaries. As dawn broke, I made my decision. I wouldn't be contributing to Kyle's lavish graduation celebration, not because I didn't have the money, although that was certainly true, but because I needed to make a statement about how Tyler and I deserved to be treated. I waited until a reasonable hour, then opened my payment app. I entered my father's information and, with deliberate intention, typed in the amount $100. In the note field, I wrote simply, "Best wishes on your graduation." My finger hovered over the send button for a long moment. I knew this would cause a storm, that there would be anger and accusations. But I also knew that continuing the same pattern would only lead to more hurt for both Tyler and me. With a deep breath, I pressed send. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Within minutes, my phone was buzzing with notifications. I steeled myself and looked at the messages. Dad. Is this some kind of joke? Lana, $1. Mom. Lana, call us immediately. Your father is furious. Kyle. Way to ruin my graduation with your pettiness. Always jealous of my success. The calls started coming in right after the texts. I silenced my phone, not ready to deal with their real-time reactions. I needed to get Tyler ready for school and myself prepared for work. The fallout could wait. When I checked my phone during my lunch break, there were 7 missed calls and numerous voicemails. I listened to the first one from my father. Lana, this behavior is completely unacceptable. After everything we've done for you and Tyler, this is how you repay us. If you continue with this attitude, you can consider yourself cut off from this family. Call me back immediately. But my mother's message wasn't much better, full of guilt trips about family loyalty and how I was hurting Kyle on what should be the happiest time of his life. Kyle's voicemail was a stream of entitlement, accusing me of jealousy and selfishness. I felt a momentary panic. Had I gone too far? Was I overreacting to the birthday situation? But then I remembered Tyler's journal entry, his little face when I had to tell him his grandparents weren't coming, and my resolve strengthened. I blocked their numbers, not permanently, but just until I felt steady enough to have a conversation without being bulldozed by their anger. I needed some mental peace to figure out my next steps. That evening, I sat down with Tyler for a conversation I'd been dreading but knew was necessary. I needed to prepare him for the potential fallout and changes in our family relationships. I didn't want to burden him with adult problems, but I also didn't want him caught off guard by shifting dynamics. Tyler, honey, I want to talk to you about Grandma and Grandpa. I began carefully as we sat together on the couch after dinner. Are they coming to visit? He asked, a mixture of hope and apprehension in his voice. No, not right now. You see, sometimes when people don't treat us with respect and consideration, we need to take a little break from spending time with them. His brow furrowed. Even if they're family. Yes, even family. Being related to someone doesn't give them the right to make us feel bad or less important. Because they didn't come to my party, he asked, showing more perception than I'd expected. That's part of it. It made me realize that we need to be around people who make us feel good, who show up for us when it matters. Tyler nodded slowly, like Jessica and her family. They always come to my stuff. Exactly. I smiled, touched by his understanding. Jessica and her family treat us with love and respect, and that's how family should behave. So we're not going to see Grandma and Grandpa for a while. We might take a little break, yes, and if they say or do unkind things, remember that it's not because of anything you did. It's about their choices, not about you. He was quiet for a moment, processing. I'm sad they didn't come to my party, but I'm not sad about not seeing them for a while. Is that bad? No, sweetheart, it's not bad. It's your heart telling you what feels right for you right now, and I'm so proud of you for understanding your feelings. Tyler leaned against me, and I wrapped my arm around him. We're going to be okay, just the two of us, he said with surprising maturity. We absolutely are, I assured him, and we have lots of people who love us just the way we should be loved. As I tucked him into bed that night, I felt a weight lifting. The conversation had gone better than I expected, and Tyler seemed to understand in his 7-year-old way that sometimes stepping back from hurtful relationships is the healthy choice. I was learning that lesson myself decades later than I should have, but better late than never. Little did I know my small act of boundary setting by sending that $1 payment was about to provoke a much more dramatic confrontation than I had anticipated. The relative peace following my $1 statement lasted less than 48 hours. I had unblocked my family's numbers the next day, feeling ready to have a calm conversation if they reached out again. But there were no calls or texts, just an unsettling silence that I should have recognized as the calm before the storm. It was Saturday afternoon. Tyler was in his room playing with the new dinosaur figures he'd received for his birthday, and I was catching up on laundry when there was a sharp, insistent knocking at the front door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I approached cautiously and looked through the peephole. My stomach dropped. My parents were standing on my front porch, both wearing expressions I knew well, the tightly controlled anger that had intimidated me since childhood. I took a deep breath, steeling myself, and opened the door partway. "Mom, Dad, this is a surprise. I wasn't expecting you," I said, keeping my voice level despite my racing heart. "Clearly," my father replied, his voice clipped, "since you've been ignoring our calls and sending insulting payments instead of having the decency to speak to us directly." "We need to talk, Lana," my mother added. "This behavior of yours is unacceptable." I noticed Mr. Wilson, my elderly neighbor, watering plants on his porch, watching the interaction with undisguised interest. This wasn't a conversation I wanted to have in public view. "This isn't a good time," I said, not inviting them in. "Tyler's home and I don't want him overhearing an argument." "There wouldn't be an argument if you just act reasonably," my father countered, his voice rising. $1. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? How hurt your brother is? Dad, please lower your voice, the neighbors can hear you. "I don't care who hears me. You've disrespected this entire family with your petty stunt." Mrs. Garcia, who lived across the hallway, opened her door and peered out, clearly drawn by the commotion. I felt my face flush with embarrassment, but held my ground. "I'm not having this discussion in the hallway. If you want to talk, we can schedule a time when Tyler isn't home." "We're talking now," my father insisted, trying to push the door wider. "You owe us an explanation and an apology." I held firm. "No, not now. Please leave." My mother's expression shifted from anger to the manipulative concern she often employed. "Lana, honey, we're worried about you. This isn't like you shutting out your family. Is something wrong? Are you having some kind of breakdown?" "I'm fine, Mom. I've just decided I need to set some boundaries for Tyler's sake and mine." "Boundaries?" my father scoffed. "Since when does family have boundaries? We're your parents, for God's sake." "That's exactly why there should be boundaries. Respect and consideration on both sides," I replied, feeling surprisingly calm despite the confrontation. "Like showing up for your grandson's birthday party instead of going to the beach." My father's face reddened. "So that's what this is about. You're punishing us because we missed one birthday party. He's 7. He won't even remember it." "He remembers," I said quietly. "He asked me if he did something wrong to make you not want to come. He wrote in his journal that he doesn't think you love him as much as you love Kyle." My mother at least had the grace to look momentarily ashamed, but my father just shook his head dismissively. "Kids are dramatic. He'll get over it. Now about Kyle's graduation, we need your proper contribution by Monday or we'll lose the venue." His complete disregard for Tyler's feelings reignited my determination. "I've made my contribution. $1 is all I'm comfortable giving considering how you've treated Tyler and me." "This is ridiculous," my father exploded. "After everything we've done for you, I have a key to this apartment, you know. Maybe I need to come in and talk some sense into you." That threat sent a chill down my spine. It was true, they did have an emergency key I'd given them years ago, never thinking they'd use it against me. The thought of them letting themselves in during this conflict was deeply unsettling. "I think you should leave now," I said firmly. "We can talk when everyone's calmer." "Fine," my father snapped, "but this isn't over, Lana. If you're not at the graduation with a proper contribution, don't bother being part of this family anymore. And if you don't start answering our calls, I'll use my key to check on you. For all we know, you could be having a mental breakdown in there." As they stormed off, I closed the door, my hands shaking. The threat about using the key wasn't idle, I knew that. My father had always been the type to follow through on his intimidation tactics. I needed to protect our home, our safe space. I immediately called a locksmith, explaining that I needed the locks changed as soon as possible. Fortunately, someone was available within the hour. While waiting, I checked on Tyler, who had thankfully been too engrossed in his play to notice the confrontation at the door. When the locksmith arrived, I briefly explained that family members with access to my home were now making me uncomfortable, and I needed to ensure my son's safety. He was understanding and efficient, installing a new deadbolt and providing several copies of the new key. While he worked, I got a text from Mrs. Garcia across the hall. "Everything okay, honey? Those people seemed pretty upset. Let me know if you need anything." I appreciated her concern and made a mental note to thank her properly later. It struck me that my neighbor of less than a year showed more genuine care than my own parents had in recent memory. After the locksmith left, I sat down to create a more comprehensive safety plan. I wasn't sure how far my parents might go in their anger, and I needed to protect Tyler from any further emotional trauma. I called Tyler's school and updated them on the situation, explaining that only I was authorized to pick him up, and that under no circumstances should he be released to his grandparents, even in an emergency. "I'm in the middle of a family conflict," I explained to Ms. Rivera, the school secretary who knew me well. "I'm concerned my parents might try to pick Tyler up without my permission." "I understand completely, Ms. Lana," she assured me. "I'll update our records immediately and alert his teacher and the principal. We take these situations very seriously." That evening, as I was helping Tyler with his bath, my phone buzzed with a text from my brother Kyle. "Nice job changing the locks. Mom and Dad are furious. Why are you being such a drama queen about all this?" So they'd already tried to use their key. The thought made me shudder, imagining them letting themselves in, while Tyler and I were home continuing their confrontation with no escape. "Tyler, honey," I said as I helped him into his pajamas, "you know how we talked about taking some space from Grandma and Grandpa for a while?" He nodded, pulling his dinosaur sleep shirt over his head. "Well, they might be upset about that. If they ever come to the door and I'm not home, or if they try to pick you up from school, I need you to remember that you should stay with your teacher or call me right away." "Okay." His eyes widened slightly. "Are they bad people now, Mom?" "No, sweetie. They're not bad people. They're just not making good choices right now. And sometimes we need to protect ourselves from people's bad choices, even if we love them." He considered this, then nodded with the simple acceptance of childhood. "Okay, I'll tell my teacher if I see them." As I tucked him in that night, I felt a mixture of sadness and resolve. It pained me that things had escalated to this point, that I had to teach my young son about setting boundaries with his own grandparents. But I also felt a growing certainty that I was doing the right thing, protecting us both from toxic patterns that had gone unchallenged for far too long. What I didn't anticipate was that my parents' escalation was just beginning, and that they would soon bring their campaign of pressure and manipulation to the one place I couldn't simply change the locks: my workplace. Monday morning started like any other. I dropped Tyler off at school, reminding him about our safety plan, and headed to the dental office where I worked. I had just finished setting up my station for the day's first patient when the receptionist Jamie called me to the front desk. "Lana, there are some people here asking for you. They say they're your parents." My stomach dropped. I hadn't told my colleagues about the family situation, not wanting to bring personal drama into my professional environment. "Tell them I'm with a patient and can't be interrupted," I said quickly. "I already tried that," Jamie whispered, looking uncomfortable. "Your father is being pretty insistent. He says it's a family emergency." Taking a deep breath, I walked to the reception area. My parents were standing there, my father looking combative, and my mother wearing what I'd come to think of as her concerned martyr expression. "What are you doing here?" I asked quietly, acutely aware of the patients in the waiting room watching with interest. "We need to talk to you since you're apparently screening our calls and changing locks," my father said, his voice carrying across the room. "This is my workplace," I said, keeping my voice low. "This is completely inappropriate. You need to leave." "We wouldn't have to come here if you just act like a reasonable adult," he countered, not bothering to lower his voice. "Your brother's graduation is in 2 weeks and you're ruining everything with your childish behavior." One of the patients, a regular named Mrs. Thompson, was watching with undisguised fascination. I felt my professional reputation crumbling before my eyes. Please, this isn't the place, I pleaded. Then where is the place, Lana? My mother jumped in. You won't answer our calls. You changed your locks. You're poisoning Tyler against us. What choice did we have but to come here? Dr. Rivera, the dentist I worked for, emerged from one of the treatment rooms, clearly alerted to the disturbance. Is everything all right out here? He asked, his tone pleasant, but his expression serious. No, everything is not all right, my father began. Our daughter is having some kind of breakdown, refusing to participate in family obligations, and turning our grandson against us. Dr. Rivera, to his credit, remained calm and professional. I see. Well, this is a place of business, and we have patients who require our attention. Lana is an excellent hygienist, and I need her focused on her work, not distracted by personal matters. I'm going to have to ask you to leave and address this outside of business hours. This is a family matter, my father insisted. Not in my dental practice, it isn't, Dr. Rivera said firmly. Please leave now or I'll be forced to call security. My father looked like he wanted to argue further, but my mother tugged at his arm. Richard, let's go. This isn't helping. As they left, my father turned back to deliver a parting shot. This isn't over, Lana. You can't avoid family forever. The door closed behind them, leaving an awkward silence in the reception area. My face burned with humiliation. I'm so sorry about that, Dr. Rivera, I began, but he waved it away. Family can be complicated, Lana. Take a few minutes to compose yourself, then we'll get started with the Johnsons at 9:30. His matter-of-fact response was exactly what I needed in that moment. No prying questions or judgment, just practical next steps. I retreated to the break room, splashed some cold water on my face, and tried to regain my professional composure. But the harassment didn't end there. Throughout the day, my parents left messages with my colleagues, each time claiming it was an emergency. By afternoon, they had started calling other dentists in the building, asking if they could pass messages to me. Their behavior had crossed all reasonable boundaries. That evening, I consulted with a lawyer friend of Jessica's who specialized in family law. I explained the situation, including the workplace harassment and threats to use a key to enter my home. What you're describing sounds like harassment, she confirmed. The workplace visit is particularly concerning from a legal perspective. I would recommend documenting everything, all contact attempts, any threats made, and consider filing for a no-contact order if it continues. A restraining order against my own parents. The idea seemed extreme, yet their behavior was becoming increasingly unpredictable. It doesn't have to get to that point, she assured me. Sometimes, a formal letter from a lawyer outlining the consequences of continued harassment is enough to make people reconsider their actions. Following her advice, I spent the next evening documenting every incident from the birthday party, no-show to the workplace confrontation. It was painful seeing it all laid out chronologically, the pattern of disregard and escalating boundary violations. The lawyer drafted a formal cease and desist letter outlining specifically that my parents were not to come to my workplace, not to attempt to use their old key to enter my home, not to contact Tyler's school, and not to harass me with excessive communications. It stated clearly that further violations would result in legal action, including a restraining order if necessary. I had the letter sent by certified mail requiring a signature for delivery. It felt like a drastic step. But after their appearance at my workplace, I needed to send a clear message that their behavior had serious consequences. The letter seemed to have an impact. The barrage of calls and texts stopped abruptly. There were no more surprise visits. At first, I was relieved, but as days passed with complete silence, I also felt a deep sadness. It shouldn't have taken legal threats to get my family to respect basic boundaries. Kyle's graduation came and went without any contact from my family. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard the celebration had been scaled back considerably from the original plans. I felt a twinge of guilt, wondering if I'd overreacted, if I should have found a more diplomatic way to address the issues. But then I would look at Tyler, who seemed happier and more secure in the weeks since we'd established distance from my parents. He wasn't asking about them anymore, wasn't worrying about whether he'd done something wrong to make them not love him. That confirmation alone told me I'd made the right choice, however painful. The first few weeks after sending the cease and desist letter were the hardest. Despite the relief of not dealing with my parents' harassment, there was an emptiness that came with the silence, a grief for the family relationship I had always hoped for, but never truly had. Tyler noticed my sadness one evening as I was making dinner quieter than usual as I stirred the pasta sauce. "Are you missing Grandma and Grandpa Mom?" he asked, perceptive in that way children often are. I considered how to answer honestly without burdening him. "I miss the idea of them, sweetheart. I miss having a close, loving family that's there for each other. But I don't miss how they made us feel." He nodded thoughtfully. "I don't miss feeling bad when they didn't come to my party." His simple statement validated my difficult decision. Children shouldn't have to protect themselves from feeling unloved by their own family. I decided we both needed additional support to process these changes. I found Dr. Martinez, a child therapist who specialized in family dynamics for Tyler. After our initial consultation, she suggested a combination of individual sessions for Tyler and occasional joint sessions for both of us. "Tyler is actually coping quite well," she told me after their third session. "Children are remarkably resilient when they feel safe and validated. What he needs most is consistency and reassurance that the boundaries you've set aren't his fault." For myself, I joined a support group for adults dealing with difficult family relationships. Meeting others with similar experiences was incredibly validating. For the first time, I didn't feel alone in my struggle or like I was overreacting. My parents always favored my sister, shared Monica, a woman in her 40s, during my second meeting. When I finally stood up to them about it, they acted like I was the one causing problems. It took years to stop feeling guilty for setting boundaries. The hardest part was grieving the relationship I wished I had with my mother, not the one I actually had, said Tom, whose situation with his emotionally manipulative mother resonated deeply with me. These stories helped me understand that what I was feeling, the mixture of grief, guilt, and relief, was a normal part of the process. It wasn't about cutting ties completely, but about adjusting expectations and protecting myself and Tyler from harmful patterns. As the weeks turned into months, we developed new traditions to replace the family gatherings we no longer attended. Sunday dinners, which had previously been at my parents' house when Kyle was home, became taco nights at our apartment with Jessica and her family. Tyler loved helping prepare the food and setting the table with special paper napkins he'd fold into elaborate shapes he learned from YouTube videos. Jessica's family embraced us completely, including Tyler in their family events, and creating a warm, accepting environment that showed him what healthy family dynamics look like. Her husband Mark became a positive male figure in Tyler's life, playing catch with him in the park and helping with science projects. "You guys are like our chosen family," I told Jessica one evening as we watched the kids playing a board game. "I don't know what we would have done without you these past months." "That's what real family does," she replied, squeezing my hand. "They show up, they care, they put your needs on equal footing with their own, and you do the same for us." 6 months after Tyler's disappointing birthday party, Jessica helped me organize a half-birthday celebration for him. It wasn't a large event, just a small gathering with a few close friends. But the joy on Tyler's face as he blew out candles on his half-birthday cake, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about him, was a beautiful sight. "This is the best half-birthday ever," he exclaimed, chocolate frosting smeared across his grin. "Next year, your regular birthday will be even better." I promised him. "We'll make it a new tradition with the people who really want to be there." Professionally, things improved as well. After my parents' disruptive visit to the dental office, Dr. Rivera had been incredibly supportive, even offering me additional hours when he learned I was saving for a down payment on a small condo. The dream of owning our own place, a stable home for Tyler that was truly ours, felt more achievable with each passing month. The healing wasn't always linear. Some days were harder than others, particularly around holidays, or when Tyler would occasionally mention a memory with his grandparents. But overall, we were building a healthier, happier life, surrounded by genuine love rather than conditional approval. About a year after setting boundaries with my family, I ran into my brother Kyle at the grocery store. It was completely unexpected, a random Tuesday evening when Tyler was at a friend's house for dinner. I almost didn't recognize Kyle at first. He looked different, somehow less polished than he usually appeared in family gatherings. "Lana," he said, sounding uncertain as he approached my cart in the produce section. "Kyle," I responded, my heart racing slightly. How are you?" I'm okay, working at Dad's firm now. He shifted uncomfortably. How's Tyler? He's good, growing like a weed into dinosaurs and soccer now. An awkward silence fell between us. There was so much unspoken history, so many hurt feelings and misunderstandings. Look, he finally said, I know things went really bad with Mom and Dad last year. And I wasn't great either. I waited, not sure where he was going with this. They were wrong about the birthday party, he continued, surprising me. I didn't realize at the time how much it meant to Tyler. Mom just said it was a kid thing and you'd understand if we went to the beach instead. But thinking about it later, it wasn't right. And the way they handled everything after showing up at your work and stuff, that was way over the line. His unexpected acknowledgement brought tears to my eyes. Thank you for saying that, Kyle. It means a lot. I'm not saying they've changed, he added quickly. They haven't. They still talk about you like you're the one with the problem. But I wanted you to know that I see it now how they always favored me. I didn't ask for that, you know. I know, I said gently. It wasn't your fault. He nodded, looking relieved. I'm not asking you to reconnect with them or anything. I get why you needed space. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for my part in it all. We didn't hug or make plans to meet again. It wasn't that kind of reconciliation. But as we parted ways with an awkward wave, I felt a weight lift. Not because I expected my relationship with my parents to improve, but because Kyle's acknowledgement validated what I had always known but doubted in moments of weakness. The problem wasn't me. It never had been. In the year since that difficult decision to send the $1 payment and change our locks, Tyler had flourished. He was more confident, more secure in expressing his feelings, and less anxious about whether people would show up for him. His therapist noted how his drawings of our family had evolved from scattered figures with sad faces to colorful connected images, showing the two of us surrounded by friends who had become our chosen family. As for me, I had found strength I never knew I possessed. Setting and maintaining boundaries with my parents was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but also the most necessary. I no longer measured my worth by their approval or tied myself in knots trying to earn equal consideration with Kyle. One evening, as Tyler and I were walking home from the park, he slipped his small hand into mine and asked, "Mom, are you happy now?" The question caught me off guard with its directness. "Yes, sweetheart, I am. Are you?" He nodded emphatically. "Yeah, I like our life. And I like that you don't look sad anymore when you think I'm not watching." Children see so much more than we give them credit for. I squeezed his hand, overwhelmed with love for this perceptive, resilient little person who had weathered family storms alongside me. The best decision I ever made was putting you first, I told him truthfully. Sometimes the hardest choices protect the people we love most. That night, as I tucked him into bed, I realized how far we'd come from that devastating birthday party and its aftermath. We had built something precious from the wreckage of toxic family dynamics, a relationship based on mutual respect, honesty, and unconditional love. The path hadn't been easy, and there were still moments of sadness for what might have been. But I had no regrets about sending that symbolic $1 payment that had finally broken the cycle of unequal treatment and disregard. Sometimes standing up for yourself and those you love requires a bold statement, a line in the sand that says, "This is what we deserve, and we won't accept anything less." Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members for your own well-being or for your child's? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Remember, sometimes the family we choose brings more love and support than the one we're born into. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to protect your heart and the hearts of those you love most.